straight or something, I'll sit down. You guys over. I know, I heard. Really? I look around and see the American Legion. A lot. I gave him food from there. Big Shanghai.
To the red? Yeah, no. Okay.
Those that are able, please rise. Sergeant at Arms, advance the colors. My fellow veterans, I present to you the Honor Guard, Vietnam Veterans of America, Thomas J. Torrey Chapter, 421.
Color! Right shoulder! Forward!
Would everybody please rise? veteran community has been steadfast and united in prodding our government officials to leave no stone unturned and to use all the tools and diplomacy. But we want to remind everyone that this issue is not only about the Vietnam War, but also about our brother and sister veterans who have not come home from World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cold War, and all the wars up to this present time. Military personnel are not just numbers to be shuffled around the battlefield. They are the heart and soul of this great republic. I shudder to think what this country would be like had the World War II veterans been defeated. We owe it to them and all the... It was frustrating as the years went by. It took a terrible toll on the families of those missing in action. But now, in the 2000s, with the advent and use of DNA information, the U.S. government and the Defense Prisoner of War Missing Personnel Office has been a boost to this heart-rending issue. In 2011, there were 75 searches, with 135 servicemen from all wars being positively identified. This year to date, there have been 55 searches, with 65 servicemen from all wars being positively identified. To the Defense Prisoner of War Missing Personnel Office staff members, we say thank you for your dedication, your perseverance, and your diligence to help ease the painful period of time that has enveloped the families of those missing in
I
action.
just bring you greetings from City Hall. Hi, Lee. As a fellow veteran, I want to say thank you very much for your service. Everybody, welcome home. I do have a letter from the mayor that I'd like to read to you. Dear friends, it is an honor to welcome everyone as the Thomas J. Torrey Chapter 421 of the Veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America hosts today's POW-MIA ceremony. Our country owes its greatness to the soldiers and veterans who have put their lives on the line to uphold our freedoms. We can never fully repay them, but we can make sure that all our veterans have the support they deserve. Thanks to the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs and other agencies, we are helping our city's veterans re-enter the workforce and access the services they and their families need. And together we pay tribute to all Americans who bravely served in Vietnam. Let me say, all Americans who bravely served in Vietnam. So on behalf of a grateful city, I offer my best wishes for a meaningful ceremony. Sincerely, Michael R. Bloomberg, Mayor. Again, thank you very much.
America, don't forget me. I belong to Uncle Sam. I'm an American soldier, still missing a foreign land. It's such a lonely feeling. America, won't you hear my cry? Come get me if you can. I was shipped to a foreign land to fight a senseless war. I didn't run to Canada. I obeyed my country's law. Now the war is over, and I'm still a mystery. America, won't you hear my cry? Come on, see about me. Oh, America, don't forget me. I belong to Uncle Sam. I'm an American soldier, still missing in a foreign land. It's such a lonely feeling when you're lost in a foreign land. America, won't you hear my cry? America, won't you hear my cry? Come get me if you can. I may be much alive, then again I may be dead. Either way, I want to come home, to the land where I was bred. To the land I left so long ago. That's where I want to be. America, won't you hear my cry? Come on, see about me. Just picture my poor family and the pain they must have endured. Not knowing if I'm alive or dead. They need to know for sure. I'm just a lost American. I'm here so all alone. I have overpaid my dues. It's time to bring me home. Please, America, come get me.
Welcome all. Thank you all for coming. Uncle, thank you very much. It always depends on you for showing up. You know, this is the first time that I have not worn this uniform, and it hurts. But I have to say, guys, you look great. It's the first time I looked at you from the outside. I'm really proud of you. Great job. Well, again, thank everybody for coming. I'm not going to talk too much, but I do have to pass some remarks. By you being here today is proof enough that you who are here have not forgotten, and you will never let this cause linger. What I will ask of you all here today is, my fellow veterans, what breaks my heart, and I see it every year, is where are the rest of the veterans? Where are we? I have to point to you because you guys are out front. We have 40,000 veterans on Staten Island. I remember when I was a veteran and I was going through hell and I was sitting with the rest of my buddies, we made a promise. We will never forget. That promise does not diminish over the years, but it seems to be, because I always see the same faces here every year. Right? I know how many men in my chapter. They have 200. I expect 200 here. They're not here. American Legion, VFW, you guys, we have to get out there and tell these guys to get off their butts and remember what we did. And it is never ever forgotten. Those guys that we left behind that are there that we don't know about deserve that. And I'm putting that task to you. Now, for all of you out here that aren't veterans, I ask you to get to your children, to get to your grandchildren, and remind them and make them understand what that POW flag stands for. That is very important. We could pass that on to different generations and let them know. Now, my public officials, I can't say enough about you. You are the same faces we see here in every service. In every service, it's the same ones, and God bless you. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to make sure our government does not forget. You are there. There's nobody that can protect us from that government more than you can. So it's your task to make sure that they remember that. And they remember that the POW-MIA flag is the only flag that has ever flown over Old Glory at the White House. And it'll be the only flag that ever will fly. We have to make sure our government knows that. And unfortunately, that's your task. But I know you're up for it. After all that's being said, I would like to leave you with a poem. I recently came across this poem. It's written by Delaide Jones, and I think it's very appropriate for today. Thousands are still missing from those wars of the past. Slowly some come home to grieving families at last. Some found in unmarked graves on foreign lands across the sea, with the science of DNA to reveal their true identity. JPAC was formed to find them around 1400 to date. And for loved ones who seek closure, it surely never is too late. They think of 40,000 they might be able to recover as they follow these leads and tips from one country to another.
Some remains may be lost forever, like those heroes resting in the deep. But some to bring those home, others to bring those home, in a solemn promise we must keep. It is a very noble thing to do, as though we go and search and find those who died for our country, for we must leave no one behind. Every year we have a special day to remember those still lost, to renew that promise to them that no matter what it may cost, we will never forget. Remember here today, you are all on point. Let us make sure that no one ever forgets. Thank you. God bless.
Every year, we ask a distinguished veteran of our community to place the POW-MIA chair back on our empty chair. This is a solemn part of our ceremony, and we only ask veterans whom we feel are dedicated to this cause every year. This year, we are honored to tell you about World War II Army veteran Grace Martin. Grace was born on October 8th, 1919. She was delivered in her own home on DeKalb Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Grace did her basic training at Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia. After basic training, she went to quartermaster school at Camp Gilmer in New Jersey. After quartermaster school, Grace's duty station was at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. Grace worked in the base PX. Grace served honorably for 2 years, 1944 to 1946, and was discharged from Camp Shanks. We who know her know that Grace is very proud of her military service, and Grace is a valued member of the greatest generation. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Grace Martin. Return safest. Sorry. Mrs. Martin, would you please come up to the detail? Grace, would you return to your chair, please? Grace, you made this ceremony all the more better just for your attendance. Thank you.
Those who have served and those currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the misfortunes of duty and problems, and the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget, while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are those who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. The POW-MIA issue is not unique to any one particular war or period in history. We know there were 4,452 unaccounted troops from World War I, 73,681 unaccounted troops from World War II, 7,947 unaccounted troops from the Korean War, 126 unaccounted troops from the Cold War, 1,657 unaccounted troops from Vietnam, and 1 unaccounted troop from Afghanistan. The fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. However, we call them brother. We call them sister. They are unable to be with us this day, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence and sacrifice.
This table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her oppressors. Remember, the tablecloth is white, which is symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember, the single red rose in the vase signifies the blood they have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedoms of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing brothers and sisters who keep the faith, awaiting their return. Remember, there's a slice of lemon on the bread plate, which reminds us of their bitter fate. Remember. The salt sprinkled on the bread plate represents the countless fallen tears of the families as they continue to wait for answers. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot drink with us this morning. Remember. The chair is empty. They are not here. Remember. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, and into the open arms of a grateful nation. Remember. Many of our brothers and sisters may never return home. They have made the supreme sacrifice to ensure your freedom. Remember.
We pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our brothers and sisters will be home where they belong.
Right shoulder. Huh. Return safest. Huh. Meeting. Forward. Huh.
We have been talking about POWs and MIAs, mainly about those that are still missing. But we want to remind you, there were many who served, were captured, and suffered for many years at the hands of their captors, both physical and mental torture, deprivation, and years that their families had no inkling of what happened to them. Returned to the U.S. alive from World War II, there were 720 men and or women. World War II, 116,348. Korea, 4,418. Vietnam, 661. And after so many years for some of them, finally returning home, they went on to live normal lives, contribute to our society. And as you are surely aware, one of them ran for president at our last presidential election. So I just want to make sure we remember them also on this day. As for now, we would like to single out our two POWs MIAs from Staten Island. And of course, this is done as a reminder, these are our two. We are not forgetting the others. Gerald Joseph Crossan Jr., Major, 435th Tactical Fighter Squadron, 8th Tactical Fighter Wing, 7th Air Force, United States Air Force. Date of birth, 12 March 1944. Date of loss, 16 May 1968. Captain David J. Rickle, pilot, and Lieutenant Gerald J. Crossan Jr., weapons system operator, while lost while flying an F-4D Phantom over North Vietnam. Their aircraft was shot down about 20 miles southwest of the city of Quang Binh Province, North Vietnam. Other air crews in the area saw no parachutes, nor were any emergency beeper signals heard. Search and rescue operations failed to locate any sign of either air crewman, and both men were classified missing in action. The North Vietnamese never listed the two as captured, and Rickle and Crossan were not among the American POWs released in February 1973, nor did any of the released POWs have any knowledge of the two men. The Secretary of the Air Force approved the presumptive finding of death for Gerald Crossan on 5 May 1978, changing his status from missing in action to died while missing. Gerald Crossan was 24 years old. Date of loss, 16 May 1968, North Vietnam. Kevin O'Brien, Major, Headquarters and Headquarters Battery, 2nd Battalion, 94th Artillery Regiment, 108th Artillery Group, U.S. Army. Date of birth, 30 August 1946. Date of loss, 9 January 1969. 2 men were lost when an O-1G Bird Dog, tail number 51-5059, light observation aircraft went down in bad weather on 9 January 1969. Captain Hugh Bird, pilot, 200th Aviation Company, 212th Combat Aviation Battalion, and First Lieutenant Kevin O'Brien, artillery observer, headquarters and headquarters battery, 2nd 94th Artillery. The two had departed Fubai on an artillery support mission in the Quezon area. While aloft, they were diverted to assist the reconnaissance team in enemy contact. After being relieved on station, Bird headed back to Fubai. At about 1940 hours, he reported that the weather was getting worse, that the aircraft was not equipped for instrument flight, and that he was uncertain of his position. Radar controllers tried to get a fix on the Bird Dog, but were unsuccessful. Radio direction finding did not allow controllers to get a precise location. Based on that information and the pilot's reports, controllers believed the aircraft to be in a mountainous area with peaks rising above the O1's reported altitude. The controller recommended that Bird should climb to avoid the terrain, but was unable to establish radio contact with the aircraft. An immediate search was impractical due to weather and nightfall, but airborne searches began the following morning and continued for several days. The wreckage was not located, nor was contact made with either of the two men. When the search effort was terminated, both Bird and O'Brien were classified as missing in action. The Secretary of the Army eventually approved presumptive findings of death for both men. Bird on 11 January 1974 and O'Brien on 7 March 1979. Their remains have not been repatriated. Kevin O'Brien was 22 years old. Date of loss, 9 January 1969, South Vietnam. We have given you a lot of information, a lot of numbers and statistics, which partly tell the story, but what we must remember is these are more than just names on a wall. These are people who had families, hopes, dreams, and aspirations, never got the chance to live them out.
Reset! Huh! Ready! 2! Up! Hey!
I want to thank everyone for coming. I know your schedules are sometimes busy, yet you took the time to come to this event. I just want to thank you all for that. Please keep our POW-MIAs in your thoughts and in your prayers. Would everybody please rise?
Land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
This country was born in battle. We had to fight to be free. Throughout the course of our existence, there have been threats on